your attention? Okay, everyone, can you please remain standing for the procession of colors by the Military Honor Guard from Fort Dix, New Jersey, followed by the Scouts of Troop 31.
Left, left, right, left, 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 right, left, 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 right, left. 2, 1, hold 1, 2. All right, Scouts salute. Non-scouts, put your hands over your heart.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adults can be seated. Scouts, Scout sign. Scout up.
I will do my best to do my duty, to guide my country, to obey the Scout law, to uplift the people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Scout law.
Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, and immediate, cheerful, brave, and forever.
Scout may seated.
Good evening. My name is Ben Schenk, and I'm the Senior Patrol Leader of Troop 31. It's great to see that there are so many people here to honor our Scoutmaster, Mr. Coe. Even though we all have different interests and busy schedules, the fact that you're all here makes me think it's certain that we all share one thing in common: our admiration of a man who has dedicated his life in the service of scouting and his country. That man is Mr. Coe. Mr. Coe, we want to give you the welcome home and the recognition that you never got when you returned home from Vietnam. We are lucky to have with us several honored guests who wanted to share this evening with you, and we would like to recognize them at this time. First, your immediate family, Mrs. Cindy Coe, Andrew and Allison Coe, and Mr. Alfred Coe Sr. Next, Pennsylvania State Representative Stephen Barrar, who was instrumental in helping to obtain the medals that you earned in Vietnam and will be receiving them tonight. Also, Pennsylvania State Representative Dan Truitt, Charlie Rogers, Scout Executive of the Chester County Council of the Boy Scouts of America, and his fellow staff members of the Chester County Council and the Order of the Arrow. Mr. Steve Dissinger, Principal of Hillendale Elementary School. Also, Dr. John Sandville, our school superintendent, sends his best wishes. He regrets that he could not be here due to a school board meeting. We welcome and thank the veterans for the Military Honor Guard at Fort Dix, New Jersey. And lastly, we are thrilled to have with us the Amerikids Chorus under the direction of Mrs. Nicola Rourke. Would everyone please rise as the Americans lead us in singing the national anthem?
can you please be seated? Hello, my name is Mark Ellsworth, and I'm a junior assistant scoutmaster here with the troop. I'm also a new Eagle Scout under the guidance of Mr. Coe. I have the privilege tonight to serve as your Master of Ceremonies, and I now have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Mark Dulick, or Assistant Scoutmaster Mr. Mark Dulick, and First Class Scout Thomas McClure for the invocation.
Let us bow our heads in prayer.
Almighty God, we are here today to pay tribute to Mr. Coe for his bravery and courage in serving our country in the Vietnam War. In honoring Mr. Coe, we also honor all the brave men and women, living and deceased, who have served their country in the armed forces. Accept our thanksgiving for their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families, which have purchased for us a free land. Cause us never to take for granted their devotion to liberty. Keep our memories alive with gratitude and our gratitude alive with our faithfulness to the principles which have made our nation great. Grant, we pray, joy and fulfillment to those still living, and for those who are at rest, grant your peace. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
I now have the rare privilege this evening to introduce the founder of the Boy Scouts of America, all the way from Great Britain, Lord Robert Stevenson Smith Baden-Powell of Hillendale. You'll notice that he happens to bear a striking resemblance to Mr. Tom Stallnecker, District Advancement Chairman of the Chester County Council. Lord Baden-Powell will address the unique relationship between the military and Scouts.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my full name is Lord Robert Stevenson Smythe Baden-Powell of Gilwell. When I'm with Scouts like you, I'm glad to be called VP. I founded the Scouting movement a little over 100 years ago. Like Ray Coe, I was in the military before I became a Scout leader. For 32 years, I lived the military life. I returned to England from the Boer War in South Africa and leading the defense during the siege of Mafeking for 218 days. I was appalled at the state of youth in Britain. 60% of the would-be recruits for the Army failed the undemanding medical tests. There was a decrease in the active participation in sports and a great increase in spectatoritis. The life led by the average city dweller was inherently unhealthy, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally too. The schools were neglecting the boys' physical and moral development while concentrating exclusively on the 3 R's. As part of my responsibilities as Inspector General of the Cavalry, I had the opportunity to act as the inspecting officer for a review of the Boys Brigade on the occasion of their 21st birthday. The Boys Brigade was only one of several organizations trying to improve the morals, manners, and discipline of these lads. The performance of the 7,000 youth carrying their heads erect and marching in almost perfect step was most impressive. It was clear to me that boys would come eagerly, in the thousands, of their own accord to be trained where the training had attractions for them. At the same time, the program bothered me. The marching, the drilling, the military uniforms, the imitation arms, the military aspects of the bands. Even in my training of the Army, I had moved further and further away from formal drill to a program for developing individual pluck, intelligence, initiative, and the spirit of adventure. As the boys marched off the field, I turned to the founder of the Boys Brigade, William Smith, and congratulated him on the turnout. I added that the brigade would have 10 times the members if it had more variety and attraction in training. He agreed and challenged me to develop such a program. He specifically suggested that I develop a boys' version of my small book, Aids to Scouting for NCOs and Men, that I've written for training military men in the art of scouting. Another friend of mine, General Allenby, told me a story of coming home one day to find his young son and his son's governess up in a tree. When he inquired what they were doing, the governess explained that she was teaching him scouting in accordance with Aids to Scouting. It had been one of her textbooks at Miss Charlotte Mason's Teachers Training College, where she had trained as a governess. She said the practice of observation and deduction is a vital point in modern education, and Baden-Powell's Small Volume is the best book on the subject. I frequently receive letters from various youth organizations and boys and girls asking for advice. Clearly, being the hero of Mafeking, it gave me great appeal to these youth. I always held up the virtues that I had learned in my youth. Many times I wondered about the unexpected, unearned, and unsought notoriety accustomed to me by the defense of Mafeking that has been thrust upon me. Could there be some higher purpose underlying it? Was it a call to me? Could it be utilized to some good end? If so, how could I do that? Self-reliance, courage, and chivalry make the best citizens in a peaceful community. None of these essential qualities were being taught in the schools. I put together some ideas about a scheme of scouting for boys and sent them to some friends for their opinions. The reactions were very encouraging. I began work to create the first book for a new program. While the Aids to Scouting had been a book for training soldiers for war, using scouting skills, this new book was to be a program for training boys for peace and good citizenship. It had to be a program that was challenging and satisfying to the boys, and it had to be fun. I could use the games and the practices from the old book, and certainly the activities of tracking and stalking. I borrowed ideas from the methods of training boys for manhood from primitive peoples like the Zulus and the Polynesians, the Australian Aborigines, and American Indians. Many ideas came from the days of chivalry, when knights trained their squires to be pages and later to be knights themselves. As the new book, Scouting for Boys, started to come together, I wanted to test the ideas in the field. On July 29, 1907, I took 20 boys from all walks of life for the first scouting camping expedition. It's on Brownsea Island, just off the coast of England. For 10 days, these boys camped together in the outdoors. They played games, learned skills, and heard stories. When the boys returned home, they had been changed forever by the experience. They had greater confidence, greater self-reliance, and a host of new skills. The camp at Brownsea Island was a great success. It convinced me of the value of scouting for boys. I was sure that scouting could teach boys greater self-reliance, would guide them to grow into better men, and that would help my country become a better nation. Shortly after Brownsea Island, my new book, Scouting for Boys, was published. Soon, boys were forming their own patrols and setting off on camping adventures. But many of them had no adult leaders and no clear plan of action. Realizing that something would have to be done, I retired from the Army so that I could give my full time to organizing the Boy Scouts. Soon, all over England, Canada, Australia, and many other nations of the British Empire, boys were forming scout troops. In 1909, an American businessman named William D. Boyce got lost in London, and he was helped to his destination by one of those early scouts. The boy refused a tip, saying, "A scout does not accept tips for doing a good turn." Boyce was so impressed with the scouting program that when he returned to the United States, he incorporated the Boy Scouts of America on February 8, 1910. That one unknown scout, doing his daily good turn, was responsible for the spread of the scouting movement to the United States. Since my time, the leadership of scouting has passed through many successive generations of dedicated scouters. It is only with the commitment of many selfless volunteer scouters, like Ray Cub, that scouting has been able to provide so many opportunities for boys to grow into responsible young men over the last 106 years. We're here tonight because of Ray, who has been one of those dedicated scouters for over 25 years. and has touched and enhanced the lives of hundreds of boys over those years. Whether those boys enter the military or remain in civilian life, each one is a better young man today because of the program that Ray helped create here at Troop 31. The goals of the scouting movement from its founding through today have always been to help boys grow into better citizens in body, mind, and character. Thank you, Ray, for all you've done to further that cause.
Thank you again, Lord Baden-Powell. It is now my privilege to introduce Pennsylvania State Representative Stephen Barrar. Representative Barrar is a longtime friend of Troop 31 and Mr. Coe. We're very glad to have him here this evening.
Feel the emotion in the room today. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say we live in a time when there are no heroes just don't know where to look. You can see heroes every day going in and out of factory gates. Others, a handful of numbers, produce enough food to feed all of us and then the world beyond. You meet heroes across the counter. They're on both sides of that counter. There are entrepreneurs with faith in themselves and faith in an idea who create new jobs, new wealth, and opportunity. There are individuals and families whose taxes support the government and whose voluntary gifts support churches, charity, culture, art, and education. Their patriotism is quiet but deep. Their values sustain our national life. Now I have used those words, they and their, in speaking of these heroes. I could say you and yours because I'm addressing the heroes who I'm speaking of, you, the citizens of this blessed land. From Ronald Reagan's first inaugural speech, 1981. Tonight it is my pleasure to honor Ray Coe for his service to our country in the Army and in the Boy Scouts as a Scoutmaster. His heroism, support of others, and desire to continue improving his community. He's a true role model for all to look up to. Ray has received the Purple Heart already, but he has been owed several number of awards commending his heroism during the service in Vietnam. He spent 13 months in Vietnam, which was spread across 3 cavalry units. He advanced each unit going from a E1, a private, to an E5, equivalent to a sergeant. It was for heroism in connection with military operations against a hostile force that he will receive the Army Commendation Medal with the V device for valor. First Class Coe distinguished himself with his heroic actions on August 23, 1970, while serving with Troop A, 3rd Squadron, 4th Cavalry in Vietnam. Troop A was involved in a reconnaissance operation which the lead vehicle detonated an enemy mine, which initiated an enemy attack. Even though he was injured in the blast, Private Coe helped move a wounded comrade from the vehicle despite being exposed to hostile fire. His bravery and devotion to duty demonstrated through his actions contributed immeasurably to his fellow soldiers surviving. He will also receive a Bronze Star, which is the 4th highest individual award in the military, and the National Defense Medal, which is presented to service members who served honorably when a national emergency has been declared during a time of war or conflict. Ray will also receive the Vietnam Service Medal, which includes 3 Bronze Campaign Stars for participation in campaigns in Vietnam. Ray will receive the Combat Infantry Badge First Award, which is presented to those who personally fought in active ground combat while assigned as a member of either infantry, ranger, or special forces unit of brigade size or smaller after December 6, 1941. Just as Ray displayed heroism during his time in the Army, he shows it through his involvement with the Boy Scouts. Since 2007, Ray and his wife shared in leadership of a small special needs unit, PAC 323. He is also the Scoutmaster of Chad's Ford Troop 31 for 25 years. The dedication and mentorship he shows to the Scouts have had a great impact on their lives. While he may not have pulled any of them to physical safety as he did his comrades in the Army, you will hear how he was a hero in their lives later this evening. They will share how he supported them, and Ray's next award relates to his devotion to supporting others because he provided direct combat support to Vietnam armed forces, and for more than 6 months while serving outside of Vietnam. Ray also earned the Vietnam Campaign Medal as he supported his fellow servicemen and women during their time of need. He has also supported the Scouts through his admirable depth of involvement with Boy Scouting. His involvement goes far beyond the father's service to his son's pack. In addition to Ray serving after his son earned his Eagle Award. He was a Chester County Provisional Scoutmaster for Camp Horseshoe and Science Camp. He was the Council Camp Master for 6 years and a Vigil Honor member of the Octorara Lodge 22 of the Order of the Arrow. And he has served just about every position there is in Scouting. Those positions commanded time and willingness to learn, but that didn't scare Ray away. He has always been committed to learning. Ray carried that dedication to learning and higher achievement into the Boy Scouts. He earned his Wood Badge and the District of Merit Award. He was bestowed with the James E. Gothrop Memorial Award and the Founders Award. As Ray is not an ordinary Scoutmaster, he also was not an ordinary soldier. Throughout his life, he demonstrated the highest principles of patriotism, support for others, and desire to continue learning. It is a great honor for me to be here tonight as we present Sergeant Cole with the many awards of which he's also deserved. And I have a few awards before we get to those that I would like to present to you. For this special occasion, we've had a Pennsylvania state flag flown over the Capitol in your honor, and I'd like to read that to you before we present that. Why don't you come up here with me? It says it. Here we go. Upside down. It says, from the House of Representatives, this is to certify that the enclosed Pennsylvania flag was flown over the state capitol in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on November 1st, 2014. This flag was flown in honor of Alfred Raymond Coe for his years as a Scoutmaster and years of service to our country in Vietnam, and is signed by the Chief Clerk and by myself, State Representative Steve Berard. Also, Senator Pileggi has sent along a Senate citation, which I'm not going to read, because it's a really difficult font for an old guy like me to read, so I'm going to pass on it. You can read it later if you want to put better glasses on. So that is for you. We also have a House citation that I just want to read a tiny part of it for you. It says, whereas the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania is always pleased to celebrate those individuals who through service to our country uphold the principles and traditions set forth by the forefathers of this great nation, whereas Alfred Raymond Coe, Jr. is being honored during a military medal ceremony which is being held on December 1st, 2014. Now, therefore, the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pays tribute to Raymond Coe, Jr. upon his richly deserved recognition, expresses deep appreciation and respect for a job well done, and offers best wishes for every future success and happiness, and wishes you a great welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you again, Representative Brewer. I'd now like to welcome up Mr. Charlie Rogers, Chester County Council Scout Executive and an enthusiastic supporter of Mr. Coe.
Ray, I'm glad you had a chance to come up because the view up here of the whole room is a lot more impressive than sitting in the front row just looking at the speakers. 25 years as Scoutmaster, so you're halfway done. It must feel good. Those who know me know that I'm not usually at a loss for words, and since being asked to speak, I've sat down a number of times, and every time came up with a blank piece of paper, just not knowing the right words to say to thank Ray for all he's done throughout his life. I've only known him for 3 years, but boy, what a great guy. Salt of the earth, solid in every way. America needs more Ray Coes. So Ray, since I don't know what to say to you, let me give a message to the kids. So Scouts, Mr. Coe is an adult. He was probably an adult when your parents were kids. He's been an adult for a while. It's hard to imagine, though, that he was only a couple of years older than you when all of this took place in his life. You grow up awful quick when you're halfway around the world in a land you have no idea where you are and what you're doing. And the only people you know are the ones who your life depends on and whose lives depend on you. There are lots of ways to serve our country, so Scouts learn service to God and country. I think we all pray that you will never have to serve your country the way Mr. Coe served. And I think we all hope that you'll be ready to serve your country when that time comes. And so there are lots of ways to serve. You can wear a uniform and serve in the military, or you can get elected to public office to serve the well-being of the people in your area, like some of our representatives tonight. You can become a good, decent adult, have kids, show them the right way to grow up. You can be successful businessmen to help keep America strong. And at the end of a long day of work, when you really just want to sit in the recliner and turn on TV, you can throw on a Scout uniform and go and help the next generation of Americans to learn to do the right thing. So the Scout oath ends to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. If you do those three things, if you do your best to do those three things, you will be prepared for what life throws at you. Just like Mr. Coe was ready when his time was called. And so let me just end my 45-minute remarks early this evening. And with a note, this time of year, the Christmas specials all come on, and one of my all-time favorites is It's a Wonderful Life. And I think if we were in Bedford Falls, Ray Coe would be the star.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Our next speaker this evening is our Troops Committee Chairman, Mr. Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell and Mr. Coe go back for many years back to when Mr. Maxwell first served as our committee chairman when his oldest son Michael was in the troop.
Good evening. We're here tonight to recognize the service of Mr. Coe to his country and to our scouting community. In 1969, when Mr. Coe was 19 years old, not much older than you scouts sitting here tonight, he was drafted into the Army. He was trained, and then was sent to serve in the Vietnam War. He served honorably and at times heroically. He did his tour of duty and was just discharged when he was 21 years old. He earned awards when serving our country, some of which he never received. We would hope tonight to make this right. Mr. Coe has been the Troop 31 Scoutmaster since 1999. He leads our troop and has influenced our boys for over 15 years. He's the driving force that makes his troop successful. He leads by following the principles of the Scout laws and teaches the boys through his actions. He's led by example and is a positive role model on our Scouts. Under his leadership, there's been 76 Eagle Scout badges earned. We look forward to his continued leadership in the future and countless Scouts he has yet to influence. At this time, I'd like to recognize his family. His wife Cindy, his son Andrew, his daughter Allison, and his dad Ray. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us for the past 15 years, for all those countless hours, weekends that he's been away from the family. Thank you for all the days and weeks yet to come. Thank you for realizing the scouting program is so important in building the leaders of tomorrow. And in his role as Troop 31 Scoutmaster, he is influencing so many young boys in a positive manner now and in the future. Thank you for your sacrifice for our Scouts have gained in knowing Mr. Coe. Ray, you fought in a war for your country, and upon your return you were ignored and at times ridiculed for service to your country. For this we are sorry. Ray, look around this room. Thank you for your service, not only as our Scoutmaster, but as a soldier who has raised his life in service to his country. We wanted to honor you tonight in an appropriate manner. Since the conception of the celebration this evening, the enthusiasm has been overwhelming. The outpouring of support and hours spent to make this evening happen by both the scouting community and the community at large has been very impressive. When people heard that we were planning an evening to honor Mr. Coe, people lined up to volunteer their services and time. They wanted to give back to the man who has dedicated so much of his life to the service of this community and country. This outpouring of support should prove to you that you have made a positive impact upon the community and are held in the highest regards. Now that your service has not gone unnoticed or unappreciated, Ray, we're all proud of you and proud to know you. I once asked Mr. Coe, after so many years, how he was still so enthusiastic about the scouting program. He told me, when I grew up in the 60s, his generation had a motto: we were going to change the world. He felt his generation, as they've gotten older, may have forgotten this motto, but he had not. He does what he can through scouting. The scouting program has given him the venue to try to change the world and make it a better place by developing the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for your service.
Now we'd like to hear once more from the Americans chorus, directed by Mrs. O'Rourke. They will be singing the inspirational song, Thank You, Soldier. Thank you, Americans, again. That was fantastic. I'd now like to welcome my fellow Eagle Scout under Mr. Coe, Lady Ali Khan, who will give us a brief background on the Vietnam War.
This small presentation is not meant to give you all of the information on the Vietnam conflict, as time does not allow. It will, however, fill you in on the basics of the U.S. involvement for those who do not know, and explain the part that Mr. Coe played in the conflict. The Vietnam campaign for the U.S. started in 1961 after South Vietnam signed a military and economic treaty with the United States against the North Vietnamese communists, known to many as the Viet Cong. By 1962, the number of U.S. military personnel in Vietnam reached a total of 9,000. In 1965, the number of U.S. military personnel reached hundreds of thousands. 2/3 of these soldiers were volunteers. The United States Army followed a policy of attrition, aiming to kill as many Viet Cong as possible without taking territory. In 1962, the U.S. began Operation Ranch Hand. The operation involved spraying large amounts of herbicides over the jungles of South Vietnam. These herbicides were given code names such as Agent Orange. The fact that many, if not all, of these chemicals were reported to have adversely affected the health of many veterans of Vietnam is very concerning, as contact with the substances was virtually inevitable. The Cambodian incursion in 1970 was an attack on Viet Cong hideouts in unpopulated areas of neutral Cambodia. The 3rd Squadron of the 4th Cavalry Regiment was stationed in Cu Chi, northwest of Saigon, and was active near Cambodia, but after the incursion. This was the unit to which Mr. Coe was first assigned. In 1970, Mr. Coe was transferred to the 11th Armored Cavalry Division, dubbed the Black Horse Regiment. It was with this unit that Mr. Coe earned his Army Commendation Medal while headquartered in Viet Nam. In February of 1971, Mr. Coe was again transferred to another regiment, this time the 3rd Squadron of the 5th Cavalry, called the Black Knights. It was with this unit that he earned his Purple Heart while his unit was headquartered in Dong Hai. Mr. Coe extended his service in Vietnam by 1 month and received an early discharge from the Army. After a few more air campaigns against the Viet Cong, all warring parties agreed to a ceasefire on January 27, 1973. In March of that same year, all U.S. military personnel left Vietnam, save for a handful of U.S. advisors and Marines protecting American installations. The United States, the war is officially over, claiming a total of 58,000 lives, with 150,000 wounded and 1,000 missing in action. When soldiers returned home from Vietnam, the country was divided. Being the 60s and 70s, many people loathed war. Because of this, many soldiers upon returning home were not given much hospitality and were in some cases insulted and mocked. With this in mind, please join me in welcoming Mr. Coe.